Joining us on CC this week is Rohas Nagpal. He's the author of Future Money Playbook, Chief Blockchain Architect for Wrapped Asset Project as well. Also joining us for a legal perspective on the show is going to be Uday Walia. He's the lawyer partner at Touchstone Partners. All right, Rohas, let's begin with you first. Just explain to our viewers, the basic pillars of how to get started on your crypto journey and how to watch out for coins. What, according to you, is the most important thing one must keep in mind just starting out on the crypto journey?
Sure. So one thing that you must remember is there are primarily three types of cryptos. One, what we call as the medium of exchange, something which you could use as money. So a Bitcoin or a Dogecoin could be an example of that. The second would be utility coins, which are going to fuel use cases. So something like an Ether, ETH comes into that. And the third type is a stable coin, something which is pegged to a fiat currency like the dollar or the yen. So that's one thing that everyone must understand.
Right. And, we talked about that in the explainer as well, but important to have that distinction very clear in your head and what exactly are you investing in. So it's great to hear that from you. Uday, let me come to you and let me first talk about the elephant in the room over here. Everybody is very kicked about the statement that recently came out by the finance minister. Nirmala Sitharaman said that she's already with a crypto bill, which is now awaiting cabinet approval. But as we wait for that, as we wait for more clarity on that front, for people just getting started and still a little edgy perhaps about what kind of control perhaps or what kind of regulation surrounds crypto in India, what do you want to tell them?
Well, the trouble is that the government has done a bit of a flip-flop. So they haven't quite decided what they want to do. In 2018, they decided they wanted to regulate it. In 2019, we saw a draft bill where they wanted to ban it altogether. The Reserve Bank of India, now look, the Reserve Bank of India will have an adverse position on this because the whole point about cryptos is to exclude central banks. So, you'd expect the Reserve Bank of India to have an adverse, but the Reserve Bank of India in 2018 issued a circular where essentially they tried to stifle financial transactions in virtual currency. They didn't ban it altogether. That was then set aside by the Supreme Court, which said that, look, you need to demonstrate the harm that is done to banking institutions as a result of the access to the banking system. Now, the government hopefully is going to try and regulate it because you can't stifle technological innovation. So you must encourage it. Now, the government likes the blockchain aspect of it. So this whole public ledger stuff. And in the bill that we saw in 2019, they said, we want to ban cryptocurrencies, but we love the public ledger stuff. And this might be available for use. Now, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, I like certain aspects of the technology, but I don't like certain aspects. Now, we also know that there are legitimate concerns around cryptocurrency for terrorist financing, for money laundering. All of that needs to be addressed. But you can't try and ban it, push it all into the black market.
Just hold on to that thought. And, one of the reasons why I wanted you and Rohas together in this conversation is exactly this. You want to get a legal point of view, and we also then want to understand technically how that is going to play out. Rohas, do you want to respond to that about the concerns about this actually being used for all the wrong reasons?
Sure. So actually my introduction to Bitcoin happened in 2010 when I was helping one of the law enforcement agencies to investigate a case of how the drug mafia was using crypto.
I see.
So yes, definitely the uses of crypto started with the illegal world where we had Silk Road, which way back in 2010-11 did $1 billion of transactions simply on Bitcoin, selling all sorts of illegal stuff. But a lot has changed. In fact, today the savvy criminals don't use Bitcoin because that's a pseudo-anonymous crypto and they use privacy coins like Monero, Decred, Zcash. But yes, there is a very legitimate fear that a lot of the privacy coins can be misused for money laundering as well as financing terrorism and crime. So I do get that. But again, remember, that only applies to medium of exchange cryptos. There are a lot of very good use cases. When we talk about stable coins and utility coins, it's next to impossible to misuse those.
Right. And this is actually circling back to our explainer of the day where we told people, read the white paper, understand what is the problem the coin is trying to solve, and all of that plays such an important role in understanding what you're putting your money on actually. On that note, let's take the first viewer question that we've got on the program. Let's play that out.
Hi, my name is Walia and I am currently a second year student here at IIM Udaipur. Cryptos are considered the next big thing or a thing of the future. That's because of the underlying technologies that these cryptocurrencies have. I wanted to get your opinion on when these technologies would become mainstream. Like we've seen adoption from Ecuador and a lot of interest coming in from big banks as well.
When will they become mainstream? Rohas, you want to take that?
Yeah. Actually, they are already mainstream. A few years ago, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India set up the DND system on a blockchain. And this happened years ago. And even now, when we look at it, some of the state governments are using blockchain for the COVID vaccine passports. So I'd say they're fairly mainstream already. It's just that the normal user doesn't hear of the technology. So they don't realize, but blockchain is almost everywhere today.
Wow, that's quite an eye-opener for everyone here, including me. Let's play out the next question, please.
My name is Rahul Tejanavar, and I'm currently an undergraduate studying liberal studies. My question is, considering the decentralization and the anonymity of transaction of cryptocurrencies, if legalized, how do the institutions plan on keeping a check on illegitimate financial actions such as funding for terrorism, money laundering, etc.?
It all coming back to that, or they answer that?
I think the answer is technology. So the way to deal with all of this stuff is to try and regulate it and use technology to find those answers. It's not just the case that, look, you can use cash to buy a Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin can then be used to buy some sort of illegal weapons or equipment or whatever it is. You can even do that today. I mean, cash exists. There is a medium of exchange that exists today, but you have to use, so like with cash, you ban cash. You don't ban cash, sorry. You try and regulate the use of cash. Cash over a certain threshold requires a PAN card. You try and make sure that there are wire transfers for all of those proceedings. There's a PAN card. There's all of that stuff. You have to try and use the entire ecosystem and technology to try and make sure that this particular system does exist. How do we make sure that there is adequate anti-money laundering, adequate KYC systems in place to make sure that it isn't used for the things that we keep hearing about? There's a lot of good stuff that you can use Bitcoins for. So not least, you can buy Tesla cars.
It's good tech versus bad tech, ethical hackers versus the bad ones. That's really where it's really boiling all to. I have last few minutes on this. So let me go back to Rohas on a question. Rohas, I got another question, and this was on social media, and so many people keep talking about it, that there's this entire talk about how coins are decentralized, right? So nobody's riding them, etc. But one tweet by Elon Musk can escalate the price of a particular coin or dump it on the other hand as well. So how does it really play out, and what should be the source of information really that one is banking on when it comes to looking at the future of a coin?
Sure. So first of all, I'd like to say cryptos are not as decentralized as people would like to believe it. And in fact, most cryptos are controlled by people that we call as whales. That's a very small group of people who controls it. And yes, some of the cryptos, especially the meme coins, they rely heavily upon social media. So in fact, you have a lot of charts which show you how YouTube or Reddit or other social media actually impacts the price of cryptos on a minute-to-minute basis. But you know what? That's even true of the stock markets. There are certain really popular people, and when they talk about certain stocks, that also moves it. So I think cryptos are very similar to that, but because cryptos overall are a very small market, barely $2 trillion, so they are even more susceptible to this. But yeah, that's a known thing. Cryptos are not very decentralized, and they rely heavily upon social media.
So there is influencing that happens on this front as well. And what one needs to keep in mind is that, be here in the long run maybe, because that's going to really sort out a lot of issues for you instead of just making to make some quick money over there. I'm sorry, Uday wanted to come in.
I'm just saying that, and I think as Rohan touched upon it, I mean, Elon Musk also tweeted that he was going to take his company private. That led to a massive swing in his share price. He was fine. So the reason why insider trading and all those regulations exist is to try and ensure that there is a level playing field. Now, there's no reason why you can't adopt the same with respect to cryptocurrencies. The other thing is tax. And let's not forget that the government should be interested in taxing all of these products, because if a cryptocurrency is property, there should be capital gains tax on the upside of a Bitcoin when you go on to sell that Bitcoin. So, there are various advantages of trying to regulate it, not least tax. And that's certainly something that the government should be doing.
All right. Is the government listening? Well, we'll have to wait for the next session of Parliament perhaps for that. That's when the Finance Minister says it will be tabled. So let's see what happens on that front. For the moment, thank you both for joining us on CC. All right, Rohas and Uday, thanks so much for your time. We'll see you again on CC very soon.